Okay, so if I just throw the words Lake Como at you right now,
Okay.
what's the immediate mental image that pops into your head?
Oh, it's almost involuntary, isn't it?
Mhm.
You see George Clooney in a tuxedo.
Yep.
You see a vintage wooden speedboat cutting across, perfectly still water. You see that incredibly ornate wedding scene from Star Wars.
Right. It is the ultimate glossy playground for the global elite. It's the Instagram backdrop of the century. It's luxury incarnate.
It certainly is that. But
Yeah.
that's also a facade. It's a very polished surface layer. And our mission today is to, crack that surface wide open. Because if you look at the stack of sources we've pulled together for this deep dive, and we're talking architectural biographies of Giuseppe Turani, medieval war records, even industrial silk trade journals, you find a reality that is just completely at odds with the vacation vibe.
That's what hooked me on this specific stack. We aren't just looking at a pretty lake. We're looking at a place that was an industrial powerhouse that, actually outproduced China at one point.
Right. And we're looking at the birthplace of one of the most stark, radical architectural movements of the 20th century.
And a city that spent the Middle Ages getting burned to the ground and rebuilding itself out of sheer spite.
Exactly. So forget the Aperol spritz for a second. We are doing a deep dive into the structural bones of Lake Como, or Lario, to give it its proper Roman name. We're going to see how Roman military grids collided with modernist glass cubes and how a silkworm shaped an empire.
Let's start with the canvas itself, the geography, because everything that happens here, the industry, the wars, the architecture, it seems to be dictated by the shape of this water.
It really is. It's so distinct. On a map, it looks like an upside-down Y.
Or like a little stick figure with two legs running south.
Yeah, that too. But the crucial detail isn't just the shape, it's the depth. This is a glacial lake. Massive ice sheets carved this out of the rock during the last ice age.
Which is why it's so deep.
So deep. Unlike a lot of other Italian lakes, which are fairly shallow, Como is an abyss. We are talking 410 meters down. That is over 1,300 feet.
Making it the deepest lake in Italy.
By far. And that depth creates a specific environment. It's almost fjord-like. You have these steep mountains just plunging straight into deep water.
So there's very limited flat land.
Exactly. That scarcity of space forces a specific kind of urban planning. You can't just sprawl, you have to be deliberate.
Which brings us to the city of Como itself, sitting right at the bottom of that western branch. When you look at the map of the city center, it doesn't look like a chaotic medieval sprawl. It looks like a spreadsheet. It's incredibly organized.
That is the ghost of Julius Caesar.
It's wild that a layout from 2,000 years ago is still the dominant feature of a modern city.
Well, before Caesar, the local center was up in the hills. It was defensible, sure, but it was isolated. Caesar needed a strategic outpost to control the Alpine passes. This was the gateway to northern Europe.
Okay.
So he did what Romans do best. He terraformed, he drained the swamp at the southern tip of the lake and founded Novum Comum, and he laid it out in a classic castrum grid.
Streets running perfectly perpendicular to each other.
Exactly. If you go to Como today and walk inside the walled city, you are walking on Caesar's grid. You're navigating a military layout designed in the 1st century BC.
It's a testament to how the Romans just imposed order on nature. And that era gave the city two of its most famous figures, the Planes.
The uncle and nephew, Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger.
These are heavy hitters in the history books. Pliny the Elder wrote the Naturalis Historia, which is basically the world's first encyclopedia.
And the Younger gives us these incredible descriptions of Roman life, including the eruption of Vesuvius.
Titans of history.
They are. But there's a detail in the city today involving them that I find absolutely fascinating, and it tells you everything you need to know about the local mindset. Go to the Duomo, the massive Catholic cathedral in the center of town.
Okay, so I'm picturing Gothic architecture, statues of saints, the Virgin Mary, that kind of thing.
You got all that.
Yeah.
But flanking the main entrance, in the positions of highest honor, are two statues. And they aren't saints. They are Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger.
Wait, two pagans on the facade of the Catholic Church.
It is incredibly rare. The church was built centuries after they died. But the people of Como, the Kamashi, they insisted on it.
What's the message there?
It's that civic pride comes before religious dogma. It's like they're saying they are our guys first and pagans second. It emphasizes that being from Como is an identity in itself.
That creates this sense of a distinct, almost stubborn identity, which seems to be a theme. I was reading about the 10-year war in the Middle Ages. This wasn't just a border skirmish.
No, this was an existential struggle. It ran from 1118 to 1127. The opponent was Milan. And you have to understand, Milan is the big gravity well in this region. It just consumes everything around it.
And Como has spent 1,000 years fighting not to be a suburb of Milan.
Right. And in 1127, they lost.
Badly.
Badly.
Yeah.
Milan didn't just defeat them. They razed the city. They tore down the walls. It was a Carthage moment. They wanted to wipe it off the map.
But they didn't stay down, and this is where the politics get interesting. To rebuild, they had to pick a side in the bigger game.
That's right. This is the era of the Guelphs and Ghibellines. To simplify it, the Pope versus the Holy Roman Emperor. Milan was with the Pope.
So naturally, out of sheer necessity and, spite.
Como sided with the Emperor, Frederick Barbarossa. He helped them rebuild the defensive walls in the Castello Baradello, which still overlooks the town.
This explains the coat of arms, doesn't it?
Yes, a white cross on a red background. The symbol of the Ghibelline faction, the Emperor's faction, and the word emblazoned on it, Libertas.
Liberty.
Specifically, liberty from Milan. That chip on the shoulder, that fierce independence, is baked into the city's DNA. They are survivors.
So we have this foundation, Roman grids, pagan intellectuals on churches, and this fierce desire for autonomy. Now I want to jump forward, because usually when we talk about Italian history, we get stuck in the Renaissance. But the most surprising thing in our research stack is the 20th century.
You're talking about the rationalists.
This really blew my mind. I do not associate avant-garde architecture with Lake Como, but we need to talk about Giuseppe Turani.
If you're an architecture student, Turani's a rock star. If you're a tourist, you might walk right past his work and not even realize what you're looking at. He was born in 1904, and he became the figurehead of Italian rationalism.
Okay, let's unpack that term for a second. Rationalism sounds, sensible. But in an architectural context in the 1930s, what are we really looking at?
Think about the context. 1920s and 30s Italy, Mussolini's in power. The regime often favored this heavy neo-Roman style, big arches, massive columns, trying to visually recreate the Roman Empire.
Right.
Turani and his group, they were called Gruppo 7. They rejected that. They didn't want to copy the past.
So what was their philosophy?
They argued that architecture should be governed by logic. Form follows function. No decoration, no fake columns. Structure is beauty. They wanted to use modern materials like reinforced concrete and glass to create something pure.
And his manifesto, his masterpiece, is sitting right there in Como, the Casa del Fascio.
Built in 1936. It's often called the Glass House. And even today, if you stand in front of it, it looks modern. It looks like an Apple store might look if it was built in the 30s.
It's a perfect half cube, stark white marble, and this massive grid of glass.
Right. The concept behind it was supposedly political transparency.
That was the claim, right? Fascism was pitched as a house of glass into which everyone could peer. No secrets between the leader and the people.
Which is a massive dark irony, considering it was a totalitarian dictatorship.
A huge contradiction.
It is the central contradiction of the building. You have a regime that thrived on opacity and control, represented by a building designed for total openness. But if you separate the politics from the design, the building is a marvel.
How so?
It has this incredible interplay of solids and voids. A 2-story atrium, clerestory windows. These are innovations that were decades ahead of their time.
The locals must have been confused. You have this medieval stone city, and suddenly this white spaceship lands in the middle of it.